Hello everyone. I share real stories that I know and I'm sure you will like them. Enjoy watching and don't forget to like.
He was just helping with groceries. That's all it was supposed to be. Just a friendly neighbor lending a hand. But then he said something low, soft, kind, and I felt the floor tilt beneath me. A single sentence that made my chest ache and my knees tremble in a way I hadn't felt in years. And from that moment, I knew something inside me had shifted. I was about to do something I never thought I could. My name is Jill. I turned 49 last November. I've been married to David for 22 years. We live in a sleepy neighborhood on the outskirts of St. Paul, Minnesota. The kind of place where the mail always comes at 11:15 and the neighbors wave whether they like you or not. It's quiet, predictable, safe. Our house is modest, with a cracked driveway that David keeps promising to fix and a backyard that I once dreamt of turning into a garden. Those dreams dried up like the soil, forgotten under the weight of routine. David is a good man. That's what I always say when people ask. He doesn't drink too much. He doesn't yell. He doesn't hit. He pays the bills. He watches the news. He sleeps on the left side of the bed and still puts the toilet seat down. But he doesn't look at me. Not the way he used to. Sometimes I wonder if he even sees me anymore. Dinner is eaten in silence, him at the table, me at the counter. When he does touch me, it's out of habit, not hunger. His eyes stay on his phone, not on me. And the thing is, I stopped trying too. Not all at once. It happened in layers. Like the way seasons change in Minnesota, so slowly you don't notice until the snow is already falling. Our daughter left for college last fall. The quiet in the house became louder. The days stretched, one into the next. Each one just a little emptier than the last. I wasn't unhappy, but I wasn't anything. Just a shadow moving through a house full of echoes. Then came Chris. He moved in across the street in early March, just after the last snow had melted. I remember watching from behind the blinds as he struggled with a heavy box, nearly slipping on the slick driveway. His arms were bare in the cold, tanned, strong, corded with veins. I shouldn't have noticed, but I did. Later that week, I brought over banana bread, just like I always do when someone new moves in. It's my way of being neighborly, of breaking the ice. When he opened the door, he looked surprised. Not just by me, but maybe by the gesture itself. He smiled. Not a polite Minnesotanized smile, but something slower, warmer. Banana bread? That's dangerously kind, he said. His voice was lower than I expected. Calmer. The kind of voice that you feel before you understand the words. He was in his early 40s, maybe 43 or 44. Divorced, I would find out later. No kids. Worked in contracting repairs, remodeling, some freelance carpentry. There was something about him that felt grounded, not flashy, not flirtatious, just present. Like he saw the world and everything in it, including me. A week later, I ran into him at the grocery store. I had 3 overfilled bags and a purse that kept slipping off my shoulder. He spotted me struggling and walked over. "Let me help you with those," he said. No hesitation. I started to refuse, instinct maybe, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I nodded. He walked me to my car, then followed me home to carry the bags inside. He didn't ask, just did it, and that's when it happened. I was putting the milk away when he handed me the last bag and lingered. Not long, just long enough. He glanced around my kitchen. It was clean, organized, a little too quiet. Then he looked at me. "You always do everything yourself?" he asked. It wasn't the words. It was the way he said them. Not pitying, not judgmental, just real. I laughed, a short, brittle sound. David's working late. Again. Chris tilted his head slightly. His eyes held mine. "That must get lonely," he said. And I swear, I felt something snap. Not break. Just shift. Like a frozen lake cracking under pressure. I looked away first. Tried to smile. Changed the subject. But something in me had already changed. After that day, Things started happening. Small things. Little accidents of proximity. He'd be outside fixing his mailbox when I was walking Max. I'd water the flowers and find him trimming hedges, shirt damp from sweat. He'd wave, smile, ask about my day. And I started dressing just a little nicer on those walks. Lip gloss, a clean blouse. Nothing obvious, nothing bad. But I noticed the way he looked at me. And I noticed the way I noticed. One day he handed me a flower, a single zinnia from his garden. Figured you deserved something pretty, he said. I flushed so hard I had to look away. He didn't press, didn't linger, just smiled and walked back across the street. That night, I lay in bed beside David. He was snoring lightly, back turned, and I stared at the ceiling and pictured Chris. His voice, his hands, the way he saw me. The moment that changed everything came the next Saturday. I had come back from the store, hands full of groceries. As I reached the garage, one of the bags split open. A glass jar of tomato sauce fell and shattered. I crouched down, flustered, swearing under my breath. And suddenly he was there. Chris. Hey, he said, kneeling beside me. Careful. You okay? His hand brushed mine as we picked up the pieces. I looked up. His face was close. Too close. And something passed between us. A quiet heat. A knowing. He stared at me like I was the only thing in the world. Then he said it. You don't have to pretend you're fine all the time. My breath hitched. He saw me. He really saw me. I stood too fast, heart racing. He reached to steady me, his hand on my arm. I didn't pull away. For one breathless second, we stood there, tangled in silence. My hand on his chest, his fingers brushing mine. And then, my phone rang. David, coming home early. The moment shattered like the glass at our feet. Chris stepped back. I answered the phone, voice shaking. Hey, yeah, I'm in the garage. Be right in. I hung up and turned to Chris. He didn't say a word, just nodded, eyes holding something I couldn't name. And then he walked away. But the damage was done. We hadn't crossed the line. Not yet. But I could feel it, looming, closer than I ever imagined. The next morning, I still had tomato sauce on my hands. Not literally, I'd washed them 3 times. But I could still feel the warmth of his touch, the weight of his eyes on me. Chris hadn't texted. He hadn't come outside. And I was grateful, because I didn't know what I would have done if I'd seen him again. David came home early that night. He brought Thai takeout and made a small joke about not trusting my cooking after seeing the broken jar in the garage. I laughed. Too hard. He didn't notice. He didn't notice that I barely ate. That I couldn't stop glancing out the window. That my heart was still racing for reasons that had nothing to do with him. When I lay in bed that night, David's hand grazed my hip in the dark. A signal. Familiar. Habitual. But I flinched. Not because I didn't want touch. Because I wanted someone else's. I turned on my side and pretended to be asleep. He didn't push. He never did. That was the problem. A week passed. I avoided Chris like a teenager hides from a crush. I took Max for walks at different hours, pulled the blinds down when I saw movement across the street. But I felt him always. Like heat through glass. And then came the storm. A freak spring thunderstorm rolled in on a Wednesday night. The power flickered twice and went out entirely by 9 p.m. David was on a business trip. Out of state. Wouldn't be back until Friday. I lit candles. Tried to read. Failed. Max paced nervously by the front door. Then came the knock. I opened it to find Chris, rain-slicked and holding a flashlight. You okay? He asked. Saw your porch light flicker, then go out. Figured I'd check. I should have said I was fine, but I didn't. Instead, I stepped aside. Come in. We sat in the kitchen, a candle between us. The silence hummed. He handed me a mug of tea he'd made, brought his own thermos. Chamomile. No sugar, just a little honey. I asked him if he missed being married. he said quietly, not the way it ended. But sometimes I miss being known. That word, known, it cut right through me. Me too, I said. And I meant it more than I meant anything else. He looked at me then. Not just at me, into me. Like he was pulling thoughts straight from my ribs. I didn't move. Neither did he. But we were already so close. His hand brushed mine. I didn't pull away. You don't deserve to feel forgotten, he whispered. That was it. The moment. Our heads tilted the same way. Our lips hovered. And then, we didn't kiss. But we leaned our foreheads together, breathing the same small, secret air. His hand stayed on mine. And that was worse. Because it wasn't passion. It was intimacy. We crossed a line we couldn't uncross. And somehow, that felt deeper than anything else could have. When he left, he paused at the door, looked at me for a long time, then said if things were different. And I said, I know. The next morning, David called. He asked about the storm, about the power. He asked if I was all right. Then he said something strange. The garage camera glitched last night. Said it detected movement. I froze. We had a security system tied to his phone. One I forgot about. Probably Max, I lied. He paused, then said, maybe. When he came home Friday, he was quiet. Too quiet. That night, I found his phone face down on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. Open to the security app. He knew. Not everything. Not what we didn't do. But enough to know something had changed. He didn't confront me. He didn't rage. Instead, he started to vanish. Piece by piece. He stayed later at work. Took calls in the garage. Slept facing away from me. Didn't ask who I was texting when I smiled at nothing. Because he had his own smile now. 2 weeks later, I smelled perfume on his collar. Not mine. And he didn't lie about it. Didn't apologize. Just looked at me and said, I thought we weren't pretending anymore. We never had the fight. The screaming match. The slammed doors. Instead, our marriage died the way glaciers melt. Quietly. Relentlessly. One morning, I woke up and he was gone. His side of the closet empty. His ring on the nightstand. No note. No goodbye. Just absence. I sat on the edge of the bed, fingers curled around his ring. And I thought about all the ways we broke each other. All the words we never said. All the cracks we painted over until the whole thing collapsed. Later that week, I saw Chris again. He was pulling weeds in his yard. He looked up, caught my eyes, and froze. But I didn't cross the street, and he didn't wave. We had already taken what we needed from each other. The damage was done. The price had been paid. David left the ring, and I left everything else.